How does one grow spiritually? How do you grow spiritually? There have been a lot of answers over the history of time. But one answer has arisen and has had quite a long and impressive history. And that is that you find somebody who is spiritually grown, a spiritual grown-up, and you live with them. Hey everybody, welcome to the Sanctus Forum. I'll take my monastic hood off. I don't have the tonsure. My name is Michael Stewart Robb. I am better known as Mike, and here on our little YouTube channel, we do books and everyday spirituality and a few other things thrown in as well. So if that's the sort of thing that you would like to know more about or just journey with us on, then subscribe. Yeah. Another thing you can do is check out the documentary that we filmed. We filmed it 2 years ago, but we worked on it last year and we brought it out this year, called Alone Together, over at sanctus.institute/alone together. Sign up for that newsletter there and learn about a way in which you can see some of the things that we talk about on this channel practiced in real life. Now, here up until Easter, I have been doing a little series of videos on the Rule of Saint Benedict, which is a very old monastic rule. 6th century is probably when it was written. Very, very influential in Europe and now all over the world. I'm not a Benedictine, I'm not a monk, so I'm really just cherry picking some issues that I think are pretty important for us, that is important for people like you and me who probably are not Benedictine monks. Now, the one that I wanted to talk about today, is about Abbots, and it's chapter 2 in the rule, and Benedict sets out his idea of what an abbot is. And this is really where you see the genius of Saint Benedict, where he had this idea that if you could just put people together with a person who was spiritually mature, a spiritual adult, then they would all grow spiritually. If you could just kind of get them in the same place, same room. And so he's got this idea of community, and he's got this idea of there being someone who's more advanced, who's around. Here's the one thing that I want to point out for a number of people. I think this comes as a bit of a surprise to people who are in spirituality and all that. And that's this, that the Benedictines didn't have spiritual directors. And I say that in a time when spiritual direction is really booming, at least among us Protestants. I'm a Protestant, maybe you're not. I guess it is growing in Roman Catholicism as well. But the Benedictines don't have spiritual directors. There's no provision for that in the Rule of Saint Benedict. What they have are spiritual fathers or mothers. See, there's no routine in Benedict's rule set out for regularly talking to someone about spiritual life. There's no requirement. There's lots of requirements in the rule, but there's no requirement that you regularly talk with somebody who's going to help you with your spiritual life. The Benedictines had abbots or fathers. And what this was a more organic relationship. It was allowed to develop according to, just who these people were. It wasn't set out in advance what roles they would be playing, or at least not how they would be playing them in a specific monastery. Now, there was obedience, but the obedience bit, which I'm going to have to talk about in another video, was more for just keeping order in the monastery, which is really important for any kind of institution that you want to have. The next thing, and this is really the key thing, is you'll see this in chapter 2, that the abbots or fathers are supposed to lead by example. Benedict writes here, chapter 2, when a man is made abbot, he should rule his monks by two principles. First, he should show them by deeds, more than words, what is good and holy. To those who understand, he may expound verbally the Lord's direction. So the first order of business for an abbot of being a spiritual father is that you are someone who shows other people how to live, how to seek God, how to be a disciple of Jesus through your deeds. Now you see, the monks, they live together. They live together. They don't. They can actually see how a person is interacting. It's much like a family in that respect, where you, if you're a child, saw how your parents or the people that looked after you lived. It was not a secret. Now, in this modern spiritual direction movement, you don't live with your spiritual director, and that's a very interesting thing. You don't exactly know how your spiritual director lives. And of course, then verbal instruction becomes second for these spiritual fathers. Verbal instruction is second, and the first thing that an abbot needs to do is to live the right way, live the way that he wants or she wants those who are under his or her care to live themselves. And the third thing to notice is that it is on the basis of this abbot or father's example that verbal instruction is sought out. This is the organic part, and this is actually how things work between parents and children, which is the whole metaphor in this case. Children, especially as they get older, will be more and more open to the verbal instruction of their parents. I mean, just think about teenagers or young adults, how much more open they will be to their parents' verbal instruction if they see that their parents live an honorable, good, God-fearing kind of life. If it's seen in the life, then they're very interested in what their parents actually have to say. That's the organic bit. And fourthly, you see that the abbot pulls discipleship with his or her life. The abbot is pulling discipleship with his or her life. And I think in a lot of our churches, we have pastors or other leaders who are trying to push discipleship. But the Benedictine model is that the abbot is going to pull discipleship. You're going to see enough of how the abbot actually lives in order to be attracted to the abbot's way of life, rather than pushed from behind to do and live a particular way. Now, I've got a couple questions for you. One is, does your life pull others into discipleship? Can you pull others through your life towards Christ? And it doesn't matter if you want to be an abbot or whatever, a spiritual leader, it doesn't matter. It's a good rule to think about yourself and think about, what is my life saying to other people? And the other thing is this: who in your life is a spiritual father or mother? Or who has been? Who has been? I mean, these people die, so perhaps they're already dead. But who is a spiritual father or mother? And this is what we can grab from Benedict, is that this is a way that we can grow spiritually. We find spiritual grown-ups and we try to learn about their lives, see how they live by example, and follow them, and then under that receive their verbal instruction. Well, if you like this video, one of the most helpful things you can do is actually to write comments, just even that you like it, write questions for me, answer my questions if you can, whatever it is. But that's one of the most helpful ways that you can support the channel, is to just be interacting with me in these comments. And especially if you are tracking with us in this series on Benedict, let me know that. I would love to hear from you. But until next time, bye. Okay, I think I said it all.